I know the feeling all too well. You see a bargain laptop that promises enough power for the price, you click buy, and a week later you're wrestling with laggy renders, a keyboard that refuses to register a few keys, and a battery that can't even make it through a morning meeting. The regret hits fast, and you start wondering if there's a smarter way to spend a little more and actually get a machine that doesn't feel like a compromise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's why I wanted to take a closer look at the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s Gen 6 and see if it finally bridges that gap between cheap, underperforming notebooks and the pricey workstations you only see in corporate IT closets. When I first heard about the P14s, the buzz was all about its mobile workstation badge. That label can sometimes be more marketing than meaning, especially when you compare it to a $600 consumer laptop that can still run Photoshop without breaking a sweat. The question I kept asking myself was, does this ThinkPad actually give you the reliability and performance you need for professional workloads, without demanding a seven-figure budget? I dug into the spec sheet, skimmed a handful of user comments on tech forums, and imagined a day-to-day workflow that most freelancers, engineers, and remote workers live in. If you spend most of your day toggling between CAD models, data-heavy Excel sheets, and video calls, the P14s feels like a deliberate answer to those demands. The 14.5-inch screen sits at a comfortable sweet spot, large enough to see fine details in a 3D model, yet compact enough to slip into a typical backpack. The 1920x1200 resolution gives you that extra vertical real estate without the graininess you sometimes get on lower-end panels, which matters when you have multiple windows open. In practice, I found myself able to keep a Revit project on one half of the screen while referencing a PDF on the other, and the clarity was enough to spot line weight differences without squinting. Performance is where the Intel Core Ultra 7255H shines, especially when paired with the 32 GB of RAM. For a typical day of running a Python data analysis script that pulls in a few hundred megabytes of CSVs, the laptop handled the load without any noticeable slowdowns. When I pushed it a bit harder rendering a 4K video preview in DaVinci Resolve, the machine kept up, though the render times were certainly longer than a full-size desktop workstation. That's an honest trade-off. You're getting solid, consistent performance in a portable form factor, but you won't be beating a high-end tower in raw speed. The SSD, at 512 GB, provides snappy boot times and quick file access. Just be aware that a large media library will fill it up fast, so an external drive or cloud storage becomes part of the workflow. One of the hidden strengths of the ThinkPad line is the keyboard. The English layout on this model retains the classic 1.5mm key travel that many reviewers love, but it's the spill-resistant design that truly matters in real life. I've accidentally knocked a coffee mug over a few times, and the keys kept functioning afterward, something you rarely see on cheap alternatives that promise gaming-grade keyboards but crumble under a splash. The trackpad, while not as large as some Ultrabooks, offers reliable click feedback and multi-finger gestures that work well with Windows 11 Pro's touch-optimized interface. On the flip side, there are a couple of practical weaknesses that show up once you start using the P14s beyond the showroom. First, the battery life hovers around 6 to 7 hours with mixed usage. Think a few hours of coding, a video call, and some light browsing. That's respectable for a workstation-class laptop, but if you're used to the 12-hour endurance of a typical consumer Ultrabook, you'll need to plan for a charger at the desk or a power bank for the road. Second, the ports are intentionally conservative. You get a USB-C Thunderbolt 4, a single USB-A 3.2, HDMI 2.0, and the usual Ethernet and audio jacks. If your workflow relies on multiple external drives or a docking station, you'll need a small hub, which adds a bit of clutter. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to factor into the total cost of ownership. Who should consider buying this ThinkPad? If you're a freelance engineer, architect, or data scientist who needs a reliable machine for moderately heavy workloads and you travel often, the P14s hits a sweet spot. The combination of a robust keyboard, decent graphics capability, and the security features baked into Windows 11 Pro, like BitLocker and Secure Boot, makes it a solid choice for clients who demand data protection. It also fits well for students in STEM fields who need to run simulations or 3D modeling software without lugging a desktop. Who might skip it? If you're primarily a gamer, you'll find the integrated graphics limiting, and the 60Hz panel won't give you the fluid experience you expect from a higher refresh rate screen. Likewise, if you're a pure content creator who spends hours rendering 8K footage, you'll likely need a workstation with a dedicated GPU and a